we're playing on Omega, this system. Whatever this system is, I don't recognise it personally, but there you go. Have you played on this one before?
I can honestly say I don't think I have. Although it doesn't ring any bells, let's put it that way.
Well,
but
looks like
it seems like a very interesting map.
Yeah, with a good number of sort of close corridors, as it were. But the players are spawning in, so I'm Marshall and I'm joined by River in this cast. And our players for this one, Nick in light blue on the north spawn, bots first, going air second with a good power build there for the com reclaim efficiency, and on the south pole in pink, Flubb. Bots first, air second, bots air, bots, no, vehicles. See, my brain isn't working. Looking around the map though, at where the metal is, it's very much spaced out, and the proximal expansions are by the water or venturing into the corridors. Looking at the space that the corridor has though, looks as though you can probably do well to put down a few point defences and lock down some of those choke points.
I agree with you there, and I hope that they're gonna be able to use those choke points nicely. Even on the Navy maybe, because even there are some nice choke points. It's not very open, so
yeah, those metal structures.
I expect some contention of the Navy and maybe some battles. So
yeah.
I see a first scout coming out from Flubb, going straight for Nick's base, or just behind it.
Yeah,
making sure he has no Navy.
He sees that he doesn't have a Navy, plus he also gets to see those three mechs venturing in, sees the air and bots, and the com reclaim as well.
Also, Nick scouted with a with a fighter and lost it. But let's see, did he get anything?
Looking around though, Nick
Not
is
much.
ready with a bumblebee there. He needs to be careful that the bumblebee doesn't get taken out by Flubb's rather aggressive hummingbird at this stage of the game. Following around a firefly. Flubb's fabricators also coming around to try and nab those three mechs there, and also getting the coastal mechs at the back of his base. You're on the north, Nick as well, going triple fabs.
Yeah, and Bumblebee is down. Nicely taken out by Flubb's there.
It did take out that fab, which is kind of important there, although he has got another one already ready to come around and support that, even with some docks defense up the middle. So we're going to have some dock v dock fighting here. Expect to see 5-minute T2 on this map. There's more than enough metal for you to be able to do that while also keeping up your production elsewhere. Second air coming up for Flubb now as well. Third air, however, for Nick. So he's thinking about doing the raiding game around the rest of the planet. Might hazard suggestion at air fabs. What do you think about that?
I think they could be very powerful to claim some early Navy, do some put a naval factory in the middle of the ocean to lock down everything behind it, of course. It could give good advantage.
Yeah, and of course, the thing with air fabs is they are very risky. They don't take a lot of hits at all, but if you have enough of them in enough different directions, somewhere one of them will slip through the net, or at least, hopefully, will slip through the net.
Yeah, and Nick actually is getting that air fabric to the back in the middle of the ocean and building that naval factory.
Good plan there. He'll lock down those 6 mechs without too much trouble there if that air fab lives to complete its project. Probably, I say probably, possibly maybe even seeing a T2 naval there. Flubb also in the game with the naval there by his base. Looks as though Nick does manage to scout that, however, so he does know that Flubb's is almost finished. T2 vehicles now for Flubb as well. Given the relatively short distance between these bases, levelers are going to be fantastic at locking down these choke points if you get them out first, so it's all to play for in that T2 game.
That definitely is. We have seen Nick trade some air with Flubb to his advantage, as well as he has claimed the metal in between the bases. So I think Nick at this point has a very strong position, small eco advantage. So let's see if Flubb can recover from this.
Well, Nick only has a strong position insofar as blue icons somewhere on the map. Because if you look at that Flubb's force coming in, he's got a few tanks there. Nick popping up a couple of walls desperately to try and defend his forces, but the tanks there could reach through and pick off those Fabs. But it doesn't look as though Flubb is actually going to risk that one, pulling back, waiting for his T2 to be finished, no doubt. And it looks as though, around the back, Nick's airfab did not finish its project, so Nick's naval presence is negated there. A few bits of raiding in the back of Nick's base by some Flubb docks. Really, really nice to see there. Down go 2 mechs at this stage of the game. That's not too bad, considering he's trying to get his T2 naval up. Fabber spamming it out there.
Yeah, at the same time, of course, Flubb is expanding on the navy with for his eco, which is of course a nice start. Nick trying to stop Flubb's navy, but losing to bumblebees. That's costly.
Yeah, that's not ideal at all, especially when there's fabricators elsewhere around the map expanding to the metal there, sending bumblebees over narwhals. Nick's better than that. Maybe that was, maybe he was just focused elsewhere, but that was a costly, needless mistake. T2 up
Definitely.
now.
Yes, and the new airfabber trying to claim some metal from Nick. So let's see how long this one will survive.
As we said, that Flubb is doing a reasonably okay job at sending his air around, locking down those Fabs, but the thing is, Nick's air presence is getting larger and more threatening now. Flubb's is constantly set back, and there's Fabricator also on the retreat, desperately dancing between those bombing runs there.
Well, we should not be surprised that Nick is having such an air advantage. He has 3 factories against Flubb's steel air factories. And this were the factories they queued up from the start, so Flubb has not really responded to the overwhelming air by building more air. We do however see some spinners coming out.
Yeah, he's getting quite a sizable force at that at those frontal nets there. Thing is, Nick is getting up a pelter. We also saw a couple of vehicle fabbers get taken out as they rushed for a couple of metal sites there. So again, negating expansion there, so that keeping Nick behind. You can see the red numbers popping up there, and Fab just dancing away as it desperately tries to get up a Galata.
Oh.
Not quite managing it though. Well picked off for Nick there. Now he just needs to go and actually finish off those mechs, as they are keeping Flubb's economy afloat at this stage in the game.
Oh, definitely, those unprotected maxes are Flubb's advantage in this game. What he needs to do is get more Galatas up here and there to protect it against the air rating from Nikola.
He's also got all the mechs in the navy, but a confrontation in the middle now. Flubb making his move. He's got a leveler in there. He's got the spinner support. At least he did. Yeah, he does still have the spinner support. Takes down the turrets. And those mechs for Nick will go down, further putting Nick in the red here. This is not what he wants at this stage in the game. And Flubb's constant picking off of Fabbers and expansions is really going to start paying for itself now as he pushes towards Nick's base. If we look in the army tab there, Nick's army count, 50, half that of Flubb's. And bear in mind that a lot of Nick's army is in the air, which at this stage is rather obsolete when faced with a big tank force.
Yes, now the question of course is Nick gonna able to stop Flubb's forces with his levelers, as they're also rolling out slowly. He has some tier 2 eco coming up as well, but has stopped expanding and is assisting his advanced factory in the hope to get enough levelers out.
Yeah, those levelers are really what he needs right now. He's not stalling currently, which is just about good, but as long as he can defend this force from Flubb, he'll have bought himself some valuable time. And outnumbering with the levelers there, he needs to focus that down. Down it goes. Those levelers should do pretty well against the remaining tank force there, so he can have a little bit of a breather. Next problem, of course, is going to be whether there's any additional naval threats. And as you say, whether Nick can actually get back and expand, as he's constantly been thwarted. Getting up T2 Eco in his base seems to be the only answer at the moment, as he's just so hemmed in. There's narwhals everywhere, there's docks all around the place. And there's not actually, from an all-seeing perspective that we do have, there's not all that much to stop Nick from going around and just popping up a couple of things here and there in terms of their expansion. But of course Nick, with his constantly being raided, will be feeling very, very hemmed in at this stage.
Yeah, I agree with you there. He's going to feel very closed off, even though there are a lot of metal spots open and that he can just claim very easily with a couple of fabricators. But don't forget, at this point, Flubb's Air Force has grown a lot. It seems to be almost the same size as that of Nick.
Yeah, he's just keeping it out of the way for now, ready to reveal his hand later on. And Nick, possibly to restore his economy for the time being, might have slowed down production on this air, or at least paused it briefly, because his air force should, by all rights, be a lot bigger than it is now. But there's the air engagement now. Flubb takes back the air game instantly. And of course he also has all of his narwhals still in the navy there. Another air fab that was expanding for Nick into the pond was picked off. So it's just constantly pressuring Nick. And Nick moving to T2 Air. I've seen T2 Air a lot more in competitive 1v1s of late. I don't know why this is a thing.
Well, it's not a big surprise. Flubb won the air. He built 3 extra air factories to catch up. And it paid off, as he now won the air and is able to use it to his advantage and stop at least the bombers. He still has to switch over to bombers to do some raiding with it. But yeah, is it even necessary for him to do so? As most of the expansions from Nick have already been taken down. There's not a lot of air left, and he only has the bigger armies.
Yeah, and the thing is, all those air factories from Nick earlier on in the game are now not going to be hugely useful when trying to bomb Flubb's vehicle force here, because Flubb has the air advantage. He's also getting up some T2 naval now as well. Plus it looks as though Nick's vehicle force on the ground is smaller than that of Flubb's, but we'll have to see how the units actually come in, whether there's air support, whether he can keep raiding. But Flubb is floating enormously at the moment, absolutely, and his economy is about 150 greater than Nick's, but he's not really using it at this stage, even getting up into second, third, fourth T2 vehicle factory now. But
yeah, we also see that Nick has recovered from his terrible eco, and he is also floating a bit. So giving him the room to expand. We see more bot factories coming out from him. He has 4 new for producing doxes. He's probably hoping to try and reclaim part of the planet with that, in the hope to re-expand over there.
Problem is, it looks as though Nick's vehicle force down the middle was completely obliterated by Flubb. So if you actually look at that Flubb level of force pushing in now, that is a very, very nasty force bearing down on Nick's base, and there is not a lot in the base here to be able to deal with this. The T2 air, sure, it might win you the air game, but it does not really help you against a bunch of levelers if you're only shooting missiles air to air. These guys will now come in, killing off that heavily invested T2 air factory that barely did anything. That's going to be quite a costly expense there. There's the GG from Nick. He realises it's all over.
Yeah, this is very unexpected, in my opinion. I really expected Nick to win this, and I'm pleasantly surprised by Flubb's skill in this game, slowly taking over the navy, using that eco advantage probably to actually win on the land, where he of course also was expanding massively with his metal. A very nice game played. Both players played really well, in my opinion. Yeah. Flubb just had somewhat more expansion.
I need to eat my words. I didn't think that Flubb was a hugely fantastic 1v1 player, but then again I haven't really seen him a huge amount in 1v1s, so Just come out here and kill off Nick. It was a pretty good showing, I think. Taking him into round 2 of this tournament. The GG's being called. Why is the commander still alive, Nick?
Is this game really gonna end with a pelter?
The game ended with a GG a long time ago.
Of course.
Oh, coming in for the Bombers to finish it off.
Ah.
A lot of time wasting on Nick's part. And a 1 pass from Flubb. Wonderful. Hashtag 1 pass! For those who remember. But there we go. That was that game.